Part J says, using the diagram below, answer the following questions. Question 1 asks us to name two pairs of interior alternate angles. So interior indicates that the angles are going to be on the inside of these two lines, line 2 and line 3. And alternate indicates that they're going to be on opposite sides of this line, line 1. So one example is angle E and angle D here, because they're on the inside and on opposite sides of line 1. Another example is F and C. They're also on the inside of these two lines and on opposite sides of line 1. Question 2 asks us to name two pairs of exterior alternate angles, and that's going to be on this side, in this case, on the outside of lines 2 and line 3, but again on opposite sides of line 1. So one example is angle G and B, and another pair is angle A and H. Question 3 asks us which line is the transversal, and that's the line that's crossing the other two lines. So line 1, because it crosses line 2 and line 3, is the transversal. Question 4 asks us to name two pairs of corresponding angles. And those are angles that match up in position in these three lines in a way. So in this case, one is going to be on the outside of these two lines and one on the inside, but on the same side of the transversal, or line 1. So one example is angle E and A. You can see that E is on the inside of these two lines, A is on the outside, but they're both on the same side of line 1. Another pair is G and C for the same reasons. And we've only been asked for two pairs, but we can think of other ones such as F and B, and another pair is H and D. So question 5 says, if angle F is 58 degrees and line 2 is parallel to line 3, determine the measure of each of the following. So we've been told that F is 58 degrees. And so we can use that information and our knowledge about interior alternate, exterior alternate, and so on angles to figure out the measures of these following angles that we've been asked. So angle A, actually, sorry, let's start with angle G, because we can see that G is opposite to angle F, where these two lines are intersecting. So G is an opposite angle and therefore has to be congruent to angle F and have a value of 58 degrees. Angle B, if we look at, we've labeled F and B, like we said earlier, are corresponding angles because they're one's on the inside, one's on the outside, but they're on the same side of line 1. So that means they have to have the same measure, and we know that angle B then has to also be equal to 58 degrees. If we then look at angle E, you can see that angle E and F have to add up to 180 degrees to create this straight line of line 3. So we can say that 180 degrees minus 58 degrees should equal angle E. 180 minus 58 is 122 degrees. So E is 122 degrees. And now we can look at angle A and notice that angle E and angle A are again corresponding angles, so they must have the same measure. So A is also 122 degrees. Question 6 asks us to find three angles that equal 58 degrees. So Some we found already. We know that G is 58 degrees, and B is also 58 degrees. But we can find one more, and one of those is C, because we can see that F and C are interior alternate angles, and so they also must have the same measure. So C is another example of an angle that has 58 degrees. Question 7 asks us to name two pairs of opposite angles. One of those already we've identified as angle G, because we said it's opposite to angle F, where these two lines intersect. So we can say G and F are one pair. And similarly, we can say that E and H are another pair, because they're the other two angles in this intersection. So E and H are another pair of opposite angles. We can see we have another pair here in A and D, and another pair with C and B. So there's multiple different options for answering this question. And so those are some of the options for filling in these blanks. Some of what you might have put are different, but hopefully you can see how these angles relate to each other and how to analyze these types of diagrams.